If you go down to the woods today, you're sure for a big surprise. Why? Because somebody has placed a virtual circuit to Spa-Francorchamps, and we've decided it feels like a good evening to have the final qualification race for Lamborghini, the Real Race Super Trofeo Esports Series. And bringing you all the excitement and pleasure, as always, is myself, Mr. Paul Jeffrey, and this chap in the box next to me, the one and only Chaz Draycott. Good evening to you, sir.
Good evening, Paul. Great to be back for the final online event of this series. There's a lot riding on this evening, and we have known since the very first one that it's going to keep building up and up and up. The pressure on the drivers, the excitement, the drama, all of it is going to come down to this one. Obviously, to get into that live event at the Nürburgring on the 30th of July, while the SRO GT World Challenge event is going on there. So there's so much to think about tonight. I'm super excited to get this underway. And, of course, we're at one of the finest circuits in the world, which saw one of the biggest motor races of the year just last weekend, Spa-Francorchamps. What a fantastic place to go racing, even virtually.
Yeah, it really is. The pressure massively ramped up on the drivers and us as well in the commentary box. I made the first mistake of the day of forgetting to unmute my microphone when we first started. So let's get that one swiftly out of the way and move on to what should be another sensational 60-minute race. Last time out, Barcelona, we had an incredible fight all the way through the field, and four very deserving drivers made their way to the grand final. But this time, this is the last chance, Chaz, the final opportunity, the last saloon for these drivers. And we've seen, 8 returning drivers that we've got for this race. They've got one more race, 160 minutes, to get a top 4 against a stacked field of 24 drivers. This is probably as difficult as it gets in virtual racing, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And these drivers, the ones that we've got coming back, it's not even the first repeat for some of them either. There's some drivers that have been in 3 of the events. They've had a couple of chances to get there. So the frustration may show this evening. There might be a bit of desperation about their driving as well. I'm excited to see how they get on with it, though. We saw a great amount of control and patience from Miato last time out, who eventually took the win. He was sort of hanging behind the other guys for most of the race in 3rd position, and then all of a sudden he lit it up and off he went. And it was suddenly a massive surprise to us and a great victory. So you never know who's going to be lurking in this race to put on a performance like that. But of course, this all heads down to the final live event and a spot in the Lamborghini Esports team as well, in Lamborghini Squadra Corsa. But to get there, obviously it's a bit of a complicated format, so we've luckily got a VT on hand already, narrated by Paul himself, to explain how it all works.
Open to drivers from Europe, APAC and NALA regions, the Real Race Super Trofeo Esports season is here. In Europe, an online qualification process across 4 European tracks will take place, with the top 24 drivers from each session progressing to qualification races. Additionally, directly opposite the Fanatec Arena, Lamborghini will be hosting dedicated AK Esports simulation rigs for members of the public to attempt to set a hot stint time. One direct progression to the regional final can be secured at Paul Ricard, with a further opportunity at Spa-Francorchamps and 2 places up for grabs at the Nürburgring. 3 further spots are reserved for a dedicated special Abu Dhabi event. In North America, hot stint qualification begins at Indianapolis on August 14th and August 17th at Suzuka for the APAC region. In both of these regions, the top 24 drivers from qualification will progress directly to their own respective online qualification and finals races. The regional final for European drivers, earned with a top 4 finish during the qualification races, will be held on site at the famous Nürburgring Grand Prix circuit at the Fanatec Arena. 2 races will be held on July the 30th, with 23 drivers fighting it out to take the overall championship victory, and with it, the opportunity to join the Automobile Lamborghini Esports team. And that, sir, is not a bad prize at all, if you manage to make it through this tricky segment of qualifying. And just to reiterate, Chaz, because I know we've mentioned it in the VT, but just to really drill the point home, these drivers are racing for a chance to turn themselves from people like us, sat on rigs in our rooms and offices and bedrooms, into paid professional esport drivers who rock up in fully liveried clothing, paid by manufacturers. And when you say profession, you say professional race driver. for Lamborghini.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing, isn't it? And what a fantastic amount of honour to carry with that as well. Different to the branded shirts that my mum gets me every year for my birthday, isn't it? To be honest, it's a hell of a fantastic thing to have behind you. And you can imagine the confidence boost it gives you as a driver as well to carry that name. And I mean, the confidence that a lot of drivers have already got coming into this competition is humongous anyway. We've seen some fantastic driving as a result of that. Sometimes maybe a little bit of, I don't want to call it desperate driving, but that's how it feels. That's a sort of natural approach to sort of describe it, really. It seems like they realise it's a last chance saloon and they're throwing everything at some of these moves. So hopefully we don't see too much of said desperate driving this evening and people keep it nice and calm and controlled, because as we mentioned at Barcelona, actually, it's not just the top four that get looked at by Lamborghini. Of course, even if you don't make it through one event and you go into another one to try again, how will you perform there, how you behave there and control yourself, that will still be looked at just in case you get through in future and if your paths cross.
Absolutely. So let's take a look at the last race at the Circuit de Barcelona, Catalunya, the third of 4 qualification races. And as you say, we had a really good fight. At the start of the race, 24 cars lined up on the grid for a rolling start. And we know that Barcelona is a track that allows passing opportunities, but again, an element of desperation, especially at the front row of the grid. As we go 3 wide into T1, everybody managed to get through that first corner at the front of the field, nice and tidy, but there was a little bit of drama further down the running order. And here we can see Andrea Miato and Dario Yamulo fighting for position. This is, again, one of the standout stories of the race. The cleanliness, Chaz, of the racing amongst the drivers was just at the absolute highest order, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, that was the thing. You know, it was really hard firm racing that they were properly pushing each other for the entire race, but it was clean all the way through. You know, we had Romagnoli leading the race early on as well, and once these guys had a good scrap and got back up there, it was just a case of when, not if, really. Romagnoli just sort of let them go through, and I mean, he defended, granted, but still, he knew that he didn't have to fight it too hard. There was a little knock and a barge here and there like that, but it was just down to hard racing. And luckily, none of them came off because of that, and the battles continued further and further down the order. Some lovely moves like this cutback here that we saw. And I mean, it was just a great spectacle. Like you say, though, we knew the circuit was going to be good for racing, but I think it even surpassed expectations for us, didn't it?
For sure, and both of those drivers, Filippi and Pirella, that we're looking at racing so hard there, they're here again at Spa-Francorchamps because they didn't make the cut last time around. In fact, let's look at this one on my list. Filippi finished 5th, so he was the first of the drivers that won't make it through, and Pirella in 6th position. They've got a big point to prove coming into this race, and more importantly, they've got one opportunity, and it hurts, Chaz, doesn't it? If you're in 5th position, the most successful of the unsuccessful drivers, if for want of a better way of putting it, that hurts.
Yeah, they describe it as the first of the losers, don't they, really, when you have a position like that. It's not nice to say, and obviously it's not what we want to refer to it as, but that's often how you hear it described when drivers are harsh on themselves, let's say. Filippi and Pirella are 7th and 11th in the qualifiers for this event as well, so they're still in the top half of the order, 24 cars at this event once more. And it's just going to be great to see how everybody throws themselves at this, because at the end of the day, now they're into this final stage, they've not really got anything to lose. And neither have you at home either. You can watch along on the stream, register or scan the QR code, if I can say it right, and you could win yourself either a €300 voucher or a €150 voucher to shop at the Lamborghini store online. And for every event of these that you have entered so far, that is one entry into the final draw at the end when the live event goes on, and you can win yourself a VIP experience day at the Lamborghini factory and museum. So register now. You've got links coming up in the chat and all sorts wherever you may be watching, and obviously the QR code which will appear on screen as well over the course of the night. As you can see there, we're in the 4th event now at Spa-Francorchamps, and there is plenty of opportunity still to enter yourself not just into tonight but the live draw as well. And we say it every week, don't we, Paul, that if we weren't watching or if we weren't working on this event, then we'd be entering every time anyway, because what have you got to lose? It's just click on a link. It only takes a little bit of your time, doesn't it?
Exactly. You see, you get to see some great motor racing. You get to see some of these young talents, hopefully for them, living their dream. And then, of course, like you say, you can win great prizes. And speaking of young talents and up-and-coming racing stars, let's take a quick look at some of those stars that'll be taking part in this race. As I mentioned, 8 drivers are returning from Barcelona. Marcin Swiderek, one of those drivers that will be looking to make an impact in this race. Filippi finished 5th. Last time out was 7th in the hot lap qualification. He'll be looking to go at least one better in this next race to get himself a grand final slot at the Nürburgring Grand Prix circuit. And Matteo Vercelli, again, another driver we saw lots of excitement from last time around, but doesn't quite have what it takes last time. Will he do it this time around?
Yeah, there's plenty of people that will maybe have gotten a bit of a feel for how the car is at an event like this, I suppose. Maybe they could use it as like a bit of a sighting event. The previous attempts they've had, they come into this with a little bit more experience, but at the same time, it works both ways, because you've got the drivers that want to absolutely send everything at this tonight that haven't experienced it before. So I'm excited to see what they'll make of that, because they've obviously got a point to prove, and it's what we love.
Yep, and Spa-Francorchamps, what a place to go and make that point. Home of some of the finest corner sections in the whole wide world, including this one, the Eau Rouge and Raidillon complex. Incredibly fast, incredibly difficult, and in a Lamborghini Huracan Super Trofeo Evo 2, this is even more tricky than usual, isn't it? Because this is not a car that's heavy on downforce compared to a GT3. It's not as compliant and stable as a GT3 car, especially in a grid of cars racing, taking air away from each other. It's going to be quite the challenge, I think, Chaz, for these drivers to not only navigate the circuit, but navigate it quickly.
And navigate each other as well. It doesn't just adhere to GT3 regulations, this car, or I should say it doesn't. It's more of its own sort of class. Think of it as like its own cup car as such. It's an amazing bit of kit. And like you say, it really isn't that aero efficient, let's say, because despite having all of these crazy wings and fins and bits all over it, like Lamborghinis should, you know, they all look like what an 8-year-old would draw as a really cool car, because it is a really cool car. You know, it's got all the sharp bits on it and fins and intakes and pointy bits, and just having all of that looks great, but a lot of it is functional, just not in the same sort of way as your GT3 category machines. And yeah, when you certainly take into the fact that there's aero wash from other cars in front of you at sections like Eau Rouge, Raidillon, even through Blanchimont into the corner we're looking at now, into the final bus stop, which is sure to be a key overtaking opportunity on the track tonight, you've got to be so cautious of how closely you follow the car in front. And obviously, have to compromise on the brakes. Compromise is a word I use a lot in these sorts of races, but it's very true that you have to make a lot of compromises. You have to brake early, not go into the back of the car in front of you. And when you're pushing as hard as these guys will be for an opportunity like this, there's sure to be some mistakes and people maybe hitting one another in the back of the car in front.
Yep, I'd absolutely have to agree with that one. But the one thing that I will say conversely to this is our 4th of 4 races. A lot of these names, anybody who's watched the Real Race Super Trofeo Esports from the beginning this season will recognise these returning faces. So there's an element, isn't there now, of gained experience for these drivers compared to what we would have seen for, say, a Paul Ricard for the opening race. And this car is, I think it's fair to say, Chaz, not as commonly used in general as the GT3 cars. So you're not coming from quite the depth of experience that you would do as a player of ACC. So it's going to be interesting to see if they use any of those learnings. But we're about to have a look at the starting grid. You can see, top of your screen, the session starts in 3 minutes and 23 seconds. So the cars are just gridding up. The drivers are putting the final changes on their setup before we go racing for an uninterrupted 1 hour of racing here at Spa-Francorchamps. And the man on pole position is Pisano in car number 3. There we see the yellow machine to the left-hand side of your screen. Car number 13, Leonardo Parocco, is in second place, the blue car that you see there. Good qualification from him. 2 Italians at the front of the field will be looking to move forward. Michele Pirella lines up at the head of row 2, car number 11. You see there, alongside him is Magnani in car number 4, 4th position on the grid. All drivers are currently in a qualification spot. Should they finish there, when the checkered flag falls. Filippi is 5th on the grid, and Vercelli, that we've seen much of in this competition, will start in 6th position. Alongside him is Reinders in 7th, a new name to this championship, and Yezi in 8th position, just ahead of a man who was very quick in qualification but lost it towards the end, Famolari. Watch out for that driver, car number 14. I expect him to move forward very, very quickly indeed, if he can defend the intentions of Karim Matea behind. Rounding out the top 10, car number 20, with work to do. Martin Svidere, a name that will be familiar to many people that have followed top-level sim racing, disappointing 11th in qualifying. That is going to be a hard move forward. And Nikolai Noveke will start in 12th position for this race.
In 13th place and 14th place behind them, almost looks like teammates there, Leonardo Grigis and the number 1 machine, Emanuele Cardinali, the fastest qualifier before this event, only got a valid lap in at the end of the session, so look out for him coming through the order. Nicola Desi starts in 15th position in car 12 with Josh Hislop in that gorgeous blue and orange number 22 alongside. Josh, of course, another returnee from previous rounds. So too is Rosario Stimoli, car number 5 on the left-hand side of the screen, trying to work very hard from this far back in the pack. He has got car 18, P18 alongside Gabriel Della Rocca. Then it's Leonard Heidegger in car 17 in P19, and then car 19 is actually Francesco Foresti in P20. Next up is Arturo Granella, car number 10 in position 21, and then on the 11th row of the grid joining him is Pedro Reguera in car 16. At the back of the grid we have cars 24 and 23, just in a reverse of where they qualified for this week's event, Gianluca Bernardini and Vincenzo Maggio. Now these cars, Paul, obviously look like they're doing a massive wheelie down the hill, but that's just because they are on the level because of the fact that they're obviously changing the setup, and you'll see a lot of the cars bouncing around when they complete said setup changes. It's almost like they bring it down off the jacks, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. It's the last opportunity for the drivers to make a few quick changes to their car, to take their qualifying setup off, the race setup on, make sure you've got enough fuel. Because this sounds silly to say something like that, but every litre of fuel that you don't have to put in the car is potentially giving you back some lap time. So they'll be doing their calculations from testing, from qualifying, and they'll try to be working out exactly how little fuel they can get away with in order to make the full 60 minutes. And don't forget, we don't have pit stops in this race. It is green through to checker as Pisano leads a bit of a reluctant field off of the line for their formation side to lap. Before we get going, big hello to everybody in the chat. Seen some nice things about Chaz and myself, so I appreciate that a great deal from everybody. It's wonderful to have you all with us. If you have any questions, feel free to fire them in the chat, and Chaz and I will try our best. Should there be a lull in the excitement, I doubt that, we'll try our very best to give you a relatively insightful answer. Or as insightful as you and I are ever going to get, Chaz, let's put it that way.
I was going to say, we've got 2 daft northerners in the commentary box. I'm not sure whether we're going to be providing a useful answer, but we'll provide an answer. I know that we can give at least an answer, so we can't promise much, everybody, but obviously I completely second Paul's comments. I really do hope that you enjoy the stream tonight. We always have a really good laugh up here in the commentary box with the wonderful people behind the show as well at AK Esports, and of course big thanks to Lamborghini for putting on this event, and of course the beautiful simulator we use, Assetto Corsa Competizione, as well. We've got Steve and Daniel behind the scenes as well, managing all the broadcasts for us, so all Paul and I have to do is turn up and talk and look pretty. We can do 2 of those things at least, but we can promise you a lot of fun and a good broadcast.
Yeah, very much so. As always, it's great to see the onboard cameras of these drivers so you can see into the whites of the eyes, and we often use this, don't we, Chaz, during a race to try and make a snap judgment on how much pressure the drivers are feeling, how relaxed they are or are not behind the wheel in high-intensity situations. And William Pisano from pole position looks like a fairly confident chap at this stage, but confidence is always flowing for a driver, real or virtual, until pretty much the first deceleration zone, and then things can go very, very wrong or very, very right.
Yeah, absolutely. You've got to really eye up any opportunity around Spa-Francorchamps, and it's not easy to do that. It's such a high-speed circuit as well. It's all about setting up a move here, and we saw a few drivers doing that at Catalunya as well, actually, where they weren't just sending it, were they, on the brakes? They took a few corners to get the car ready and, you know, get a cut back on an exit and spend a few corners side by side just to eke out that gap to your competitor and obviously put them on a line that doesn't quite suit them. I'm excited for Pisano at the front of the field here and Porco in second place. Quite interesting to see Reinders up there as well in car 21 in 7th place. Let's not forget that the car numbers are reflective of where they qualified during the week to get into this event. So basically, if you see anybody out of the position of where their number reflects, then you know that it's either the fact that they're on form this evening or a little bit below form as well. So to have car 21 up there in 7th and even car number 20, Mattea, in 10th place, they're going to have a lot of confidence going into this. But what will Cardinali do coming through from further down as well? A lot of question marks, and we've not even got underway yet.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting to talk about we call it the seeding, so to speak, and the numbers and their practice. I spoke to a lot of esport drivers at Spa-Francorchamps for the SRO esports about this very phenomenon that we see fastest driver in the hot lap all the way down the running order when the race comes. And this is an obvious thing to say, but it never clicked with me. Some of these guys go out there and put hours and hours in. They want to be fastest, they want to be second fastest, and others think, all I need to top 24. So if they put it in 10th and they expect to have a comfortable enough gap to not fall out of qualification, that's it, they leave it and then go practice race stints. And that's an interesting way to look at it that I've never thought of. I have no confidence. I wouldn't be confident unless I had 10 seconds between me and the cut-off zone. And that just shows the level that these guys run at, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, when you get to this sort of level, it's always close, and that's what keeps it even more entertaining for us. You know, we don't just get to see the best of the best, we get to see them all running against each other, and with such tiny margins involved in these races in every little session that they get involved in. We're going to be starting the race, though, as they come out of last source on the endurance layout down the hill, so the start-finish straight is not effectively right here. They've still got a bit of time to sort themselves out and get running. But my money at the moment is on Pisano getting a nice tidy run while the rest of them scrap behind. And if he can open up a gap of just a few car lengths here, Paul, that could be pivotal to not just this race, but of course whether he gets a seat at Automobili Lamborghini Esports team.
And my money is on, you've just passed on the commentator's curse to Pisano at the front of the field. Everything these drivers expect could go out of the window. It is now the final opportunity for you to secure the golden ticket to the grand finale at the Nürburgring. One last qualification race, one last sprint to the checkered flag here at Spa-Francorchamps for the real race Super Trofeo Esports in 2023. William Pisano at the front of the field leads the grid for the run up to Eau Rouge on the opening lap. Pirella immediately goes to the racing line, holds on to that third position as you were at the front of the field. Will everybody make it through the top of riding on? A couple of cars running wide onto the runoff, but everybody's pointing in the straight and narrow at this moment in time as Magnani in fourth position is about to get swallowed up for the pack as we run down to Le Con.
Yeah, side by side for the lead as well, but Pisano just holding on for now. Apparently there's an accident involving cars 8 and 23, but that might have just been a little bit of contact in the mid-pack as they went up over the top of the hill. Everybody kept it very tidy up there. One of the green cars went flying off, and I think the two dark green machines in the middle were Leonardo Grigis and Emanuele Cardinali, so hopefully neither of them getting a penalty for that immediate excursion. But there they are in the middle of the pack. Look, everybody running wide as they go down towards Brichet, and there's a car rejoins at 3 wide. They come straight across. I don't think there was much else they could have done, to be honest, other than get back on the racing surface. But just that little bit of contact, the two cars bounce off one another, and I'm waiting to see who it was that dropped down as they go through the next sort of sector beam. But loads of battling going on here just outside of the top 10, Paul.
Yeah, Leonardo Grigis very much in the heart of the battle. He moves up into 10th position. Marcin Swiderek is another driver trying to recover from a sub-optimal qualification. He's running in 8th position. Karim Mattea is the driver. He's trying to challenge in front. Swiderek in the grey car, Mattea in the purple car that you see at the front of your shot now as we're coming through to the fastest part of this Spa-Francorchamps circuit. All you can do once you've hit that apex is hit the loud pedal and hold on for the run into the bus stop chicane. But Swiderek, 8th position, a good start, 3 more places to go, and then he can think about the pound seats for the Nürburgring at the end of this month. Michele Pirella, that we're looking at now, holds on to 3rd position, so the top 4 as you were, Chaz, at the end of this opening lap, and that's just what they need to do to consolidate and build a cushion.
Yeah, definitely. It'll give them a lot of relief to know that they are still holding on to those 4 important spots. Nice battle going on here with Mikołaj Nowicki, the Polish driver, side by side there with Nicola Desi in car number 12, I believe it is. They cross the line right near each other, although actually no, that's not the right line, is it? I was actually quite surprised, Paul, by how short it makes the run down to Eau Rouge when you use this layout of the circuit, as Nowicki has to back out of it there not to hit the back of the car in front. But usually it feels like a massive run down to the first corner, but it really felt like it was about 20 metres. I mean, look at it.
It's actually quite a clever move from Spa-Francorchamps, because we all know that La Source hairpin invites disaster, especially on an opening lap of a race. Putting through Eau Rouge, everybody's got to put their sensible hat on, otherwise you're going to have an airplane accident on the opening lap. And the great late Murray Walker once said, you can't win a race on the opening lap, but you can certainly lose it. And this kind of focuses the mind for these drivers, and we've seen it, Chaz, all season long. Get the first half dozen laps out of the way, wait for the rhythm to settle in, to understand where you are, where your car is and your rivals are, and then that's where you get the brave pills out, and that's where you start moving forward. Because more often than not, aggressive opening few laps ends in virtual tears.
Does indeed, and I think one of the drivers right now that needs to just take a little bit of a back seat and just see where his pace is at, where the pace is of the drivers in front of him, is Yannis Reinders in 5th position. Car number 21 going very, very well compared to his seeding number. But right now he's in decent slipstream behind Magnani, in 4th place I should say, car 4 P4. He just needs to see what he can do about sticking with him or potentially catching up and overtaking him. It's a long race, still 56 minutes left to go. So they need to remind themselves of that. We've seen a few drivers before, haven't we, that seem to be treating it like it's a 3-lap sprint. And it's unfortunately not the way to do it. You want to get to the front of the pack as soon as you can before it spreads out, but you still have to do it in a reserved and controlled manner and make sure you treat the race like the race that it is, an hour long. And here, Nowicki right behind Desi now. Well, we'll see whether Mikolai heeds that warning and whether he's listening to us as Desi goes on the grass on the inside of Blanchamont. That'll be a track limits warning, to say the least. Let's see what Nowicki can do here. Is he going to set the move up? Is he going to go for it? Ooh, it's the car behind of Famulari that goes deep. He's actually turned that into an overtake. What a move, Paul.
Yeah, that's sensational for Famulari. Really, I thought that was a mistake waiting to happen.
Me too.
But as you say, converted that one into a beautiful pass. The problem is, the door is open, so Nowicki has the inside line, has the advantage for the run down into La Source. Does he have the brakes? Not quite, so Famulari still holding on. And now we run into Eau Rouge. This is probably the most, I don't want to go too wide corner in the whole wide world, as Nowicki breathes off the throttle a little bit, sensibly drops back in. Will he keep the car within the confines of the racetrack? Yes, he will. But that little swabble allows Cardinale to now buy into this one. Behind, Stimoli is too wide as well for the run down into Lecombe.
Fantastic battling going on here as Stimoli just gets his nose cut off slightly there by Cardinale going down the inside. Apologies, it was not Cardinale, was it? Was it the 6 car? The car's off in front as well. Straight over the chicane goes the red machine. I think that was Famulari, wasn't it? And Nowicki involved in there. Cardinale's pushed out wide, and now Stimoli's the one squeezed to the inside as well. It's car number 6, it's Yezi trying to go around the outside of Bruchet. Horrible corner in these cars with the engine right in the middle. It'll feel like all of the weight just wants to pendulum out to the outside. It's a downhill corner as well, so the front brakes are trying to do a lot, the rear brakes are trying to do a lot, and the balance of the car really, or rarely I should say, feels lovely through Bruchet. It's a tough corner. Same here through Pouon, as it will always lovingly be called. You can get rid of this double gauche idea, as it's apparently called now. It's like calling the final corner at Monza Curva di Alboreto. It's parabolica. I'm sorry, it just is. But these guys, through what I still call Piff Paff, not the Fania chicane, having a great old scrap. As I'm going to stop getting bitter about corner names now, sorry.
So that's Chaz Draycott straight from 2009, everybody. As we're looking at Rosario Stimoli now, so he managed to navigate his way through that one relatively well, not got caught up in too much of the drama, but one of the big winners is Famulari, up into 12th position, further down Cardinale, 17th on track, courtesy of the drama, goes side by side with Heidegger, but not quite enough of an overlap to get the deal done. Cardinale now is on the defensive again as Josh Hislop tries to find a way past. Hislop keeps the nose to the inside. That's a dangerous manoeuvre. Cardinale, though, almost loses the car of his own. Sorry, that wasn't Cardinale. Cardinale's the green car, as a 15-second time penalty has been applied to Heidegger in 16th. So Emanuele Cardinale gets the deal done on track and with a time penalty as well into the La Source hairpin.
Move behind as well as Reguera tries one on Hislop. They're going to go side by side down the hill, but yeah, Cardinale nice and late on the brakes there. I don't think Heidegger thought that he was actually going to get it turned in time, but he still managed to cut across the front that 15-second penalty, I think, for the contact on the previous lap as they come over the hill once again. Look at the lighting conditions here as well at Spa-Francorchamps. It looks absolutely beautiful at this moment in time as these gorgeous 5.2 litre V10 engines scream their way around the Belgian countryside, producing over 600 horsepower, making a right old racket. And that's one of the main things as well, Paul. They may not have the sophisticated style GT3 aerodynamics, and they've got their own aero package that doesn't have to stick to any set regulations, but they've got about 100 horsepower more than most GT3 cars as well. GT3 is usually centred around 500 horsepower. Dependent on the balance of performance, you can get anywhere up to about 530 or 480, I think I remember seeing once. But with these things having another 100 horsepower more and being a lot more straight line intensive, you can't even brake at the same point or drive it the same way as a GT3 car. It's like learning a completely new animal, isn't it?
And that is what's wonderful about these cars. They're so much more visceral when you see and hear them. They're loud, they're brutish, they're sliding around on the racetrack. The drivers are having to work hard. And while we're looking at Emanuele Cardinale continuing to defend from Heidegger behind, the 15-second penalty, as you see on your screen, has been applied for causing contact in the opening lap. So disappointing stuff, Heidegger. But Janus Reiners, that we're looking at now, you said exactly this at the start of the show, Chaz. Take it easy, keep your head, see where things stand. And Reinders now has pulled that pin, hasn't he? Now he's starting to get very interested indeed at the back of Magnani. Why is that important, I hear you ask? Because Magnani is the man that holds the key to the final qualification spot. I would not want to be in his shoes, all the money in the world, because this is big pressure now. Only Magnani can lose this. He can't win it from here on in. It's going to be 15 minutes of hard defending.
Yeah, absolutely is. He's got to work hard for this, but Janus Reinders has done a great job. He's spent those couple of laps just assessing the situation, seeing whether he can catch up with Magnani, just seeing as well where he's quicker. I mean, there's always a natural point of the circuit where you might be faster than the guy in front, maybe in just one braking zone, or you might just get a better run out of one corner a bit more consistently. As you can see through the dirty air there, Janus has to be very careful over the top of Eau Rouge and Raidillon. Back in the slipstream here, and that's important for him because he's out of slipstreaming range of the car behind, which is Guglielmo Filippi. So Filippi can't sit in his slipstream and stick with them at this point in time. So I think if he just spends another lap or so here, not quite battling with Magnani as much, they can break away and open up that slight gap, which is a bit more of a buffer, and then it means he can really open the taps and have a go. We've got a yellow flag being waved apparently somewhere around the circuit, as signified by the little yellow strips at the top where it says race. Apparently there's 4 cars involved in this one, Paul, so maybe something at the sort of middle of the pack that we were looking at before, apparently up at Eau Rouge, which is never a good place to have an incident, is it?
No, absolutely not. And while we're waiting for that one to come up on screen, another little parish notice. Karim Mattea has a 5-second penalty that he will serve. Well, he'll be applied to his race time. Mattea running in 9th position, so still vaguely in the conversation for qualification places, but that will make his life a lot harder indeed. So Mattea, 5-second time penalty. We'll update you with the reasoning behind that one in a few moments' time. We're looking now at Leonardo Poco in 2nd position, not getting dropped by William Pisano at this moment in time. And there is the issue, incident between cars 20 and 8 on lap 1, 20 being Mattea, car number 8 being Vercilli in 10th position. So 5 seconds is Karim Mattea's penalty for his transgressions on track. And as always, great work by our stewards behind the scenes, monitoring all these dramas and mishaps that happen on track.
Yeah, it's very difficult to do these things live as well, but luckily, because of the world of sim racing, we've got so many different angles that we can look at things at. Here is what happened up at the top. Oh no, an overcorrection, a bounce off the wall, and suddenly, out of nowhere, unsighted. Ouch. Oh, goodness me. It's so easy to get caught up in something like that up there.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, you could see the first car on the scene was trying to sort of jump out of the way, and then in doing so, the second car, well, had nothing to look at. Suddenly there was a car in his way.
And the problem is, Chaz, in this section of track, if you want to be quick, if you want to race at the level that these guys are racing at, your car is on the absolute limits of what it's capable of doing. You've not got a margin. There's not 15-20% comfort blanket where you can then do some inputs into the car and radically change your trajectory. When you're going through Eau Rouge at the top of Raidillon, you're on a set course and there is nothing, come hell or high water, that will allow you to move that car there's someone stationary there, you're heading straight to the scene of the accidents, and that's really unfortunate. His lot in pit lane, that we can see Stamoli down in 20 seconds. He's probably one of the cars that got wrapped up in that one as well. And who else have we got involved? Yeezy's there. So yeah, real shame, and it's so frustrating as a driver when you're involved in an incident that's quote unquote not your fault.
Yeah, that's it. You just need to make sure that you try and keep your hands clean as much as you can, or keep your nose clean, I should say. That's the usual phrase.
Well, keep your hands clean, though, if you've got a direct drive wheel, because that will come pretty keen.
It will, absolutely, yeah. And I mean, Assetto Corsa Competizione really does have a lot of capability when it comes to force feedback as well. Even on a belt-driven wheel, I've had many a time where I've had a bit of contact with somebody and it has hurt my thumb and hurt my wrist. So when you're on a direct drive as well, it really can affect you and injure you, as we see Lorenzo Magnani there in the bottom right of his shot, working hard indeed. It looks like he's having to push quite hard against that wheel as well, but that's the thing. These drivers all have their own kit, they've got their own settings and everything. Some of them may have their force feedback really light, others will have it really heavy to feel the car a bit more. Something else they have to consider for the end of this championship and this event and the series is that they'll be on the set rigs that AK Esports will provide for the event at the Nürburgring as well, so it's not going to be the kit they're on at home. So it's another element of the versatility these drivers need to have, isn't it, going into that event?
Yeah, absolutely. For Chile, by the way, drive-through penalty, so he's serving that one at this moment in time. Cars 8, 6, 2 and 8, 6 and 2 drive-through for car 8, so that is the contact that we saw for Chile. Serving that drive-through almost instantaneously as Magnani goes to the inside, sails past his braking zone. Lucky that this is the 2019 version of Spa-Francorchamps, so there's no gravel to find your way through, and he drops instantaneously back down to 5th position. Not too many of those though, Sunshine, otherwise you will be opening the door to Philippi to get bought into this one as well, and then suddenly it's a whole different ball game.
Yeah, absolutely. You really need to just keep your head in the game for the whole thing, as here is the battle for the lead at the front of the pack. Leonardo Porco trying to get one over on the man that has led this race since the very start, William Pisano in car number 3, trying to hold him against that bright light blue car, which looks very good right now as they come down towards Bruchet. I love the overrun on these cars when they come off the throttle onto the brakes. Just get that massive pop and crackle as they come down through the gears. Certainly a great noise. Again, coming back to the point that I've mentioned a few broadcasts so far, actually, Paul, that even though these may be the virtual counterparts of these cars, Assetto Corsa Competizione and the people behind it have done such a good job at simulating these machines. They still excite me like the real car would. They still drive past and I still go, "Cool, listen to that." It's a fantastic simulation of what we've got.
They make me laugh and clap like a childlike idiot when you hear the noises, because it's such a beautiful audio experience in real and in virtual terms. And as you say, Kuno Simulazione, Assetto Corsa Competizione really do an incredible job to represent these in a virtual space, and our drivers do an incredible job to put on such a fantastic show. So if you're all watching at home, hope you're enjoying it. Don't forget to keep a BDI out for the QR code that will pop up on screen, and you can get that one scanned, register and be in it for a chance to win a 300 or a 150 euro voucher. As Porco now is really, he looks like he's the faster of these two drivers at this moment in time, Chaz, doesn't he? The car just seems a little bit more comfortable. It's hitting those apexes a little bit more readily than Pisano ahead of him is, and I think is an element of that one pressure on our race leader, that he knows he's under the cosh now, he knows he's got somebody firmly in his mirrors, or is it just purely the fact that Leonardo Porco is in a better place at this moment in time with the car and with his feeling?
I suppose when you're the leading car it's always difficult because there's nobody in front of you to determine whether your pace is good or not, to sort of show you that you can stick with somebody. We've had it a few times before where the car in second place is often the one in the more comfortable position for sure, because you've got somebody to chase, you've got a visual and more physical yardstick in front of you rather than just chasing numbers. You can't see the numbers in front of you, then again it depends what energy drink you've had before you race, but still it's all down to having that yardstick. And I'm the same, if I'm chasing somebody then I'm a lot faster than if I'm not, as this is the battle for the final qualifying spot that results in a little bit of contact there. And Yannis Reinders, he's run wide after the contact and he's held the position. I'm sure he's going to have to give that back, to say the least, because Magnani was at least half a car ahead into the chicane. Magnani, sure, ran wide and was maybe the cause of said contact, but it was all innocent. He was just a little bit hot into Les Combes. They were both trying to do what they could do. And I'm half expecting Janis Reinders to, one, have to give that place back, but I'm not sure whether he's going to by the look of it at the moment. He's got to be careful as well, because Filippi's right behind him.
Janis Reinders needs to put his sensible coat on now and give that position back quickly to Magnani. Why do I say quickly? Well, A, to avoid the wrath of the stewards, and B, because Filippi is getting really, really close now. So give it back while you've still got the wiggle room to do so and live to fight another day, because as you say, that was, I go out of my way, Chaz, to not make live calls on racing incidents, but to me that was very, very clear. That was a mistake there, and Reinders took advantage of that mistake as a drive-through for car number 17, causing a collision, and that's Heidegger that we're seeing in pit lane now for a couple of laps. So I think he's potentially decided enough is enough. Let's go and entertain ourselves elsewhere on a Thursday night.
I was going to try and make a joke about the fact he's gone into hiding, but no, it doesn't quite
No,
work,
God,
really,
no, please don't. Walk away from that one quickly.
Well, yeah, I've already embarrassed myself by mentioning it in the first place. But Pisano now has opened up a few car lengths over Porco on this last lap. Pisano still has the fastest lap of the race so far. And there's actually a bit more of an even gap now between Pisano and Porco, similar to the one that's between Porco and Pirella as well. This now gets back underway as Magnani is now in front. So Reinders has realised what's gone on and he's given the place back. That's good to see. But it took him a while to do that. I think maybe just trying to get into Magnani's head a little bit. They've got Filippi right behind them as well. Swiderek not too far away. He's made a good recovery after what you rightly said before, Paul, was a sort of sub-optimal qualifying session for Marcin. We've seen him do better before. I think the pressure of this event has really got to him so far, but still, we know that he's one of the finest in this sim. But let's just see what he does to manage the race from this point forward. Reinders now is not in a position I envy, though, because not only is he the car that is just outside of those top 4 positions, but he's in the middle of 2 cars that will really want to do everything to be at the front of this trio. So if he can attack without getting attacked himself, then he's doing a good job, but already Filippi's starting to put the pressure on.
And this is, as you say, a massively unenviable position for Janis Reinders. He will be furious that he couldn't make that move stick, and by having the little squabble, the off-trike and then the subsequent swapsy of places, he's really brought Filippi now into this fight as well, and that's doubled the difficulty for Janis Reinders now in 5th position. But just going back to Marcin Swiderek in 7th, wouldn't it be ironic if this race that is being borderline invisible is the one where he sneaks through and gets the qualification, when we've seen him right at the forefront and then lose it towards the end in previous rounds? And this is a change in tempo for Marcin Swiderek. He's a driver that I've seen a lot of during my esports commentary career, and he's always in and around the noisy end, the front of the field. So this is a bit of a change in scene for him. He's slowly catching monkey at the back of the field and trying to buy in. And Janis Reinders now has a 5-second time penalty next to his name as well, which we've forgotten. That adds an extra level of, come on, to the situation for the number 21 machine.
Yeah, what nuggets of envy there were for Reinders' position have now completely evaporated, I'm afraid. Now he's going to drop way further down from where he is. I mean, you'd be talking 9th or 10th place at this moment in time. So that is a big shame, that is. And there on your screen is the confirmation. It's between cars 21 and 4, so it's actually for the incident, actually, for causing a collision. So rather than not just giving the place back, which he eventually did, I suppose it'd be unfair to penalise him for it, because he did give it back in the end, but yeah, it's for the actual collision. So 5 seconds going the way of Reinders. He won't be pleased with that, understandably so, but Magnani will be happy to see that, because in most cases, while you're in the sim and racing, you get the identical timing tower that we've got on the left-hand side, so you can see if people get drive-throughs, if people get 5-second penalties. You get those little red squares and obviously the white squares if people are in the pit lane. You can see all of that information. You're given a lot of info on the screen on Assetto Corsa Competizione, which does help your confidence as a driver, because you know what the situation is, as now you can bet that Reinders is going to go for it and try and get further back up the order. Oh no, I think he was trying to back out of that because he was very deep into Les Combes. But that is not what you want to do, especially with a 5-second penalty already against your name. He would have known that he wasn't really battling him for the overall position at that point, unless he got through cleanly and disappeared up the road. But that is scrappy, and it's not affected his race. That's the worst bit about that, Paul. Magnani's been knocked out of a qualifying position, and it's not affected the other guy. That's a massive shame.
Yeah, that's a real shame. I think you're absolutely right that when you called it, that was not malicious at all. I think Reinders was very much trying to back out of that one. He had to go for it. Desperation. Desperation is a word I hate to use. I don't think it's not a fair word to use. But an immediate urgency, shall we say, was cast upon Reinders to make that move and start to sprint away. But unfortunately, 2 cars into room for 1 3/4 does not go. And Magnani, I will say, by the way, clever move from him to recognise the fact there's an escape road and that's the safest way back onto the racetrack at Le Combe and exited there. So we'll see where he comes back out. But one thing's for sure, qualification aspirations, I'm afraid now, barring some form of miracle, are pretty much evaporated, and that's a real shame for Magnani, who drove very well at this stage in proceedings. And Philippi now is the man very firmly in the pound seats.
Yeah, he is, and I mean, it's just down to the patience that Philippi has shown so far during this race. You know, he's sat behind those guys, he's not been all over them up to this point, but still, he's been in and amongst it. You know, he's been there or thereabouts. So now the opportunity has come to him. The guys in front have collided. One of them's got a penalty already before that, and he's benefited from his patience. It's one of those things. Good things come to those who wait, they say. And right now, Philippi has got a spot in the final event of this series. But we'll have to see how the rest of the race goes. We're not even halfway through yet. 36 minutes remain here at the virtual Spa-Francorchamps in the real race Lamborghini Super Trofeo Esports. Of course, big thanks as always to AK Esports and Assetto Corsa Competizione and all the guys behind the scenes here involved in this championship. It's Pisano, Porco, Pirella and Filippi that are currently in the box seats to go through from this race. Only the top 4 make it through, and they aren't the only winners potentially this evening though, because everybody watching along at home can scan the QR code, which may appear on screen in just a moment, or you can register at the link which will appear in the YouTube chat, and you can win yourself either a €300 or €150 gift card at each event that we have in this online section of the championship, and you'll be able to spend that at the Lamborghini store. There it is on the right hand side. Nothing to lose, everybody. Just takes a few moments of your time, and for every time that you've entered so far through this campaign, you'll then get 1 extra entry into the final event on the 30th of July at the Nürburgring, where you could win a VIP experience at the Lamborghini factory, which, to be honest, Paul, is worth doing considering it's free to enter.
Absolutely. And speaking of the Nürburgring event on the 30th of July, if you're watching this one and you're thinking, I should have had a go at this one, but I've missed my chance, we have not 1 but 2 wild card opportunities on site at the Fanatec Arena at the Nürburgring. There'll be 2 rigs outside the Fanatec Arena. Anyone is free to come and have a go, and if you are fast enough and you set the quickest 2 times, the quickest 2 times, you will automatically join the grand final on site at the Nürburgring. So you've still got 2 seats available to get into this competition. If you go into the Nürburgring for the GT World Challenge Europe endurance races, which I highly recommend you do, because it's fabulous, and of course come into the Fanatec Arena to watch the SRO, GT Pro and Sim Pro Series, get yourself on there, as we're seeing a little bit of drama in Gabriele Della Rocca moving up into 17th position at the expense of Maggio, who's just gone a little bit wide. So come to the Nürburgring if you're already there, get on the rigs and see if you can get yourself a seat, a last chance saloon seat into the grand final.
There's been another escalated penalty there for Reinders for causing that collision, Paul.
It goes from bad to worse.
Understandable though, really. I mean, yeah, sure, he could have been trying to get out of it, he could have been making sure that he didn't make contact, but the fact of the matter is that he did make contact, and it is almost certainly ruined Magnani's race and given him, 4 times the amount of work that he needed to do. He was already in a position to go through. These are the lead pair right now, and they've got away from Pirella over the last couple of laps. I think Porco is certainly looking racy at this point. Look, he's still putting his nose down the inside, and still, further and further. I mean, Pisano left the door open there, maybe expecting him to go deep on the brakes, but Porco sort of went, really? Can I actually try this? And then there was sort of 4 stages to that, with the 2 of them sort of edging closer and closer together. Somehow they didn't make contact, but they need to be careful because they're both in a safe position. They've got a lot of time over the guys behind them. Pirella could come through and overtake the pair of them. That wouldn't change a thing. They would still go through. They don't need to fight as hard as that, and they need to be sure of it as well. That's the thing. There was a lot of hesitation there. You cannot carry that sort of hesitation into moves like that with so much riding on you in an event like this. You have to be sure. If you're going to make a move, you've got to commit.
That was textbook. 2 drivers neither of them wanted to be in that situation. Pisano didn't want to defend and Porker didn't want to attack, but they just ran out of space to get out of each other's way. And actually, I'll give them some good credit there. Yes, it was hesitant, yes, it was dangerous, but it was also ultimately clever driving from both to realise this is not something I want to pursue. And luckily, they both stay on the racetrack. And it's so hard, isn't it, as a driver, if you're Leonardo Porco that we're riding on board with now, as you said, Chaz, nothing to gain but everything to lose, and at the same time you kind of want to be going into that grand final at the Nürburgring as a previous qualification race winner, because that marks you out as a person of interest, somebody that you need to pay attention to. It's a confidence booster, it's a line in the sand to your rivals, and it's also just looks very nice indeed on one CV, because let's remember, everybody in this race, they're all looking to become professional esport drivers. So even established names, Karim Mattea, we've seen a lot of him, Martin Sviderek, we've seen a lot of him in different competitions. They're all looking to become pros. The more wins, the more big ticket performances you can deliver, the higher your chances are of getting that one through.
Yeah, definitely. You just got to keep adding to your resume, let's say, as a bit of an alternative way of calling it a CV, just in case anyone didn't know what the heck Paul was on about, because
I'm rooted in 1976.
But no, I mean, you've got to have those ticks against your name. You know, you have to just do everything you can do to build up your profile, build up your portfolio even. Like we said before, some of the drivers that are in this event that may not get through, you know, even if you are Cardinali and you finish in this race in 13th position, you were car number 1 coming into this. That showed everybody here that at some point you were quicker than all the other guys that are in this race. And it's the same for the likes of Yezi's down there in 20th place, 8 laps down in the pits. Car number 6 though shows that he's got great pace. And even if it comes to stuff outside of this event, if some of these drivers hadn't really been recognised before for being so quick in a set of Corsa Competizione or in cars like this, there may be sim racing teams outside of that could pick them up and say, look, come and race for us. We saw you do this. We didn't realise you were that fast. It's a great thing to see. You know, it's like a scouting thing. And the accessibility of sim racing that allows people to be able to obviously pick up on stuff like that and watch events like this without the logistics of having to actually physically travel there and go racing means that there is so much talent out there that can be found a lot more easily, and that's why we're doing this competition in the first place.
Yeah, exactly. This is a shop window. It's not only a race, it's not only a fight to get to that grand final, it is very, very much a shop window for each and every one of these drivers. Speaking of shops even, in an almost perfect segue,
I was going to
the
say,
scan to win code. Yes, it feels like it sometimes the way I'm doing today, but the QR code that you've got on your screen, scan it, you've got an opportunity. Register at the website, be in with a chance to win a 300 or a 150 euro voucher to spend at the Lamborghini online store. It costs you absolutely nothing. It takes a couple of moments of your time to get registered and get scanned, and of course the more times you've done it over the course of the season, you'll go into one big pot, and at the end of the year we'll pick a name out at random and you will win yourself the opportunity to go and do a full VIP experience at Lamborghini. But while we're going back to the track action, DSQ, for those who don't understand what that means, it means disqualified, and Reinders is the man that's been awarded to his day, courtesy of not serving that drive-through penalty. Like the turkey is done.
Yeah, it's a real shame to see, because Reinders obviously one of the real impressive guys in the early stages with that number 21 car. Oh, dearie me, there's been some drama here. Oh no, Foresti I don't think was expecting the car that went off to come back on in such a way, and he got clipped in the left rear, didn't really compromise and leave enough room down the inside for that car to get back on there, and unfortunately it resulted in contact. They both carry on. It means that the car ahead now manages to open up that gap a slight bit more. So, dearie me, I think that was the number 12 of Desi, was it, nearly going into the wall there on the inside of La Source. It's an interesting corner like that, because sometimes you go around La Source and there's obviously a big dip on the apex, similar to at circuits like, I don't know, the Nürburgring, for example, where you've got this really tight hairpin and it's almost like you drop down the hill and all the grip goes away while the wheels are obviously in the air. But sometimes you go into there and if you're just a few inches to the left and a bit wider on your racing line, you've got all the grip in the world because of the camber of the corner. So it's very easy to actually drive into the inside wall there. It sounds daft, but honestly, it is, isn't it?
If I had €1 for every time I've done that, I would have several euros. Yeah, very, very easy to do. Well, we've got a momentary lull in the drama. Big shout out to everybody watching on YouTube. Some lovely words from people in the comments, massively appreciated from both Chaz and I for the positivity that you're sending our way. It goes a long way, so thank you to everybody. And don't forget as well, if you've got any questions about sim racing, about Lamborghini, the real race, Super Trofeo Esports, pop them in there. We're keeping our eye on it. It's on one of my many screens in front of me, and we'll try our best to fumble our way through some kind of sensible answer if we possibly can, or if we can't, we'll make it up. So fire us a question if you so desire. We'll be happy in the next 27 minutes and change, do our best to guide you through any queries that you may have about this competition and esport racing.
There's an incident that has occurred between cars 19 and 10, happening just a few moments ago. Foresti and Granella, and I'm afraid that it is the number 19 car of Foresti that has been given a 5-second penalty there, just for that contact between the two. Only a minor penalty, Paul, but obviously a dent in the progress of that machine, and of course means that they will not really be able to get up inside those top 4 places. But this is one thing that we do love about this at the end of the day, is that the drivers still do continue, they push on and they try, and understandably you will see the odd, what we call a rage quit, because if you get penalties and all sorts and loads of damage, then it's not really going to be possible to come through all the way from the back of the order. But again, it's a point where Lamborghini will be watching this sort of thing, and in future, if it does come across like you're a bit of a quitter, for example, based on the circumstances obviously, then that's a note against you, isn't it? You know, every little bit of behaviour here has to be taken down and has to be noted. So we'll just have to see what they make of it, I suppose, when it comes to other events further down the line as well, if we see any sort of direct evidence of that.
Absolutely. Right, in the YouTube comments, Desolation ZA has asked, where is the LAN race? What's going on there? So the LAN race is an on-site event on the 30th of July. It'll be in the paddock of the GT World Challenge Europe endurance race at the Nürburgring. It's the Fanatec Arena, so it's a purpose-built arena, very much in the heart of the GT World Challenge paddock. 24 simulators provided by AK Esports. It also hosts the SRO GT Pro Series, which is a championship for real-world GT World Challenge drivers. They race against each other, score points for their real-life championship. The following day is the Sim Pro Series, where professional works sim drivers go and race for a €75,000 prize pool. And we're also hosting the same arena. We'll be hosting the Lamborghini, the real race, Super Trofeo Esports final, where our 24 qualified drivers, which is 16 through this competition, which is wildcard entrance as well. 4 wildcards from the Abu Dhabi dealer network and 4 on-site wildcards, 1 at Paul Ricard, 1 at Spa, 2 on site at the Nürburgring, and they'll be racing, of course, for the chance to join the Automobile Lamborghini esports team. So it's on site, it's free to come down to spectate, it's free to try and qualify in a wild card, and of course it's free to take part and watch and participate in the show that will be the Lamborghini Grand Finale. So if you're at the Nürburgring, Desolation ZA, or anybody else that's watching this one, more than welcome to come down, come and say hello and watch what we hope and expect will be some real top draw esports racing.
And you'll probably get to see Paul as well, actually. He's usually towering
above
everybody.
Don't put people off. Don't put people off by saying that one. That will drag people away from the arena for sure.
Well, much like me as well, you can usually hear Paul before you can see him anyway, even though he is about 6'9". But yeah, you will have a fantastic time. If you even just go down to spectate, you know, even if you don't fancy giving it a go, we still urge you to do so. Just try it, see what you can do. You never know, really, especially if this isn't something you've done before. You might instantly click with it and get a feel for it and do really well. But still, it'd just be great to have some of you there and obviously spectate on the event and just witness how awesome LAN racing, as we call it, can be in this sort of form as well. Paul and I covered an event towards the end of last year, and honestly it was so much fun to cover and just a great buzz. You know, it still is virtual racing, the cars are virtual, but the actual emotion and the event is still very physical and very real. It's really cool. So I urge you to do that. I unfortunately won't be at the Nürburgring in person. I'll be here in my lovely green studio at home, but I still cannot wait for that event. It's going to be so exciting. And now we obviously have a bit more of an exciting prospect even here with these two still close together here, Paul. It's kind of like Catalunya all over again, where the leaders are in a bit of a deadlock. It's like there's a bit of a bungee cord attached to the back of Pisano's car, and Porco sort of gets further away and then closes him back in again.
Well, while these two are squabbling at the front of the field, I'm also hearing in my ear, so thank you, Steve, for the information, that Marcin Swiderek in 5th position is starting to close the gap to Philippi. He's lost a couple of tenths of a second in this final sector that we're on now, but overall the gain is real for Swiderek, 1.1 seconds away from the back of 4th place, 1.1 seconds away from a potential qualification spot, and Swiderek lapping in and around the window of where he needs to be. And I'm also hearing in my ear, so Steve's updating me again, thank you very much, in the last race that Swiderek competed in, he came on song in the second half of the race there as well. So it's very much a strategy that the Polish driver is trying to employ, setting the car up to be good towards the end of the stint, using his wealth of skill and experience as well to unlock that potential, because, again, Chaz, and I'm sure our audience are well versed in the pros and cons of ACC. These cars are a living, breathing thing. This track is a living, breathing thing. The balance can change wildly from the start of the race to the end, and he or she who can accommodate those changes and run with them best are the ones that are going to unlock the potential of the car versus their rivals in these kind of dying embers of the race scenarios.
And on top of that, if you can look after your tyres in the early stages as well and not push too hard, then there's less adaptation to take care of later on in the race as well. You can just make sure that the car's in as good a state as it can be, and then you've got an easier ride towards the end. A little bit deep there actually into Bruchet for Martin Swiderek, but it's one of those corners where you can get a good run out of it back down to what's apparently called Speaker's Corner now. Oh, goodness me, he's wobbling around quite a bit.
It's always been no-name corner, that one. Always been no-name.
It was no-name, then Jackie X corner apparently, and then Speaker's Corner, because the remote commentary box is actually there on the outside of that corner. That'd be a hell of a place to commentate from, wouldn't it, up there? Wow, what a spot that'd be in the sunset. But yeah, it's always going to be no-name for me as well. And Marcin Swiderek, I mean, you can tell he's pushing, actually. I was going to say, maybe he's one of the drivers that's been looking after his tyres and not overdoing it, but you can tell right now by the body language of that car, he is absolutely wrangling that. He's got the bull by the horns, quite literally.
Yep, absolutely. He needs to unlock a little bit more potential. Last time around, a 2:21.780 plays, 2:21.807 for Philippi ahead. So still some time to find for Marcin Swiderek. Francesco Foresti doesn't need to worry about lap times. He just needs to worry about a big Lamborghini Huracan Super Trofeo Evo 2 filling his windshield ahead. Foresti very much on the charge against Bernardini. This is 13th and 14th position. They're squabbling over not a qualification spot, but this is all about your own personal achievement. It's all about climbing the ladder as high as you possibly can, and Foresti fancies his chances in that brownish coloured number 19 car. The question is, does he have enough pace? Will he be able to find an opportunity? In 19 minutes and 46 seconds, the clock is invariably ticking down and opportunities are minimising for these drivers. And this becomes happy hour, doesn't it now? Jazz, we've seen this before, the last 20 minutes, this is when people are starting to think, I've got to pull something out of the bag here, and this is maybe where it gets tad leery sometimes for these positions.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, we spoke to obviously the drivers at the end of the last race as well, and they said that in the later stages, the tyres, especially at the rear, start to really let go in this car, so it's easy to just get a little bit too eager on the throttle and spin up those rears and have that slide, which obviously makes it worse and worse. They really do just go on a downward curve from that point when you start overworking the tyres. The car's a little bit more twitchy as well as it starts to burn even more and more fuel off. It's getting lighter and lighter, so there's a sort of an imbalance of it getting lighter and faster because of the fuel, but also getting slower and more slidey and twitchy because of the tyres losing their life. So it's a real horrible imbalance, especially in a car, like we've said, that isn't as aerodynamically efficient as a GT3 car. Let's say it's a bit more slippery and slidey, a lot faster in a straight line as well, and of course with that big 5.2 litre V10 engine just behind the middle of the car. It's not perfectly balanced in terms of where the engine is, but I mean, I don't care where that engine is. It makes one hell of a racket, even in the virtual form. It still makes me scrunch my face up with excitement. Right now, Bernardini's going to be scrunching his face up and avoiding looking in his rear view mirror, isn't he? Because Foresti right behind him. can't really do much about him because he's got a 5-second penalty, and then so too has Granella. But even still, you've got the whole track position situation to think of, haven't you? And it's all about how you affect this battle or how you handle this battle right now. Again, another mark against your name if it goes wrong.
And it's, as you say, it's track position. It's also these drivers, let's not forget, they've invested a heck of a lot of time and energy and mental capacity in preparing for this race. They'll have known, or they'll be reasonably confident that they've got through the qualification process, so turn their attention to the race. And even if you're in 13th and 14th, even if, for the case of Foresti, you have a time penalty, making this kind of irrelevant in terms of the finishing position, you just want to get the most you can from it. Have some fun, have a good race, show everybody at home that are watching, fans and or potential employers or team members in future, that you're made of the right stuff. Every move you make on track, even if you think it's going completely under the radar, all counts for or against you. As now Porco in second position. Could this be the attack for the lead? Early to the inside from the run down to Lacombe. Leonardo Porco goes for the lead and takes the lead in a dynamite overtake with 17 minutes left on the clock. He's been threatening for the last few laps and now done the deal, but can he hold as we run down into Brussels? Goes to the inside, to the outside goes Pisano. Not enough racing room. Pisano newly demoted to second position, does not fancy staying there for much longer. Through No Name now, following through, keeping the wheel tracks of the number 13 machine. But Leonardo Porco, Chaz, that was I'm going to do this one, and to heck with the consequences. And that was a very, very nice move indeed.
Great move, absolutely spot on, and fair play to Pisano as well. He left just enough room to get it done. It was fair racing room, great hard racing between the pair of them. A fantastic example of what can be done and what should be done, and they haven't lost a massive amount of time to the guys behind either. So yeah, you love to see it. Really solid manoeuvre that by Porco, and one of the best things about it was the fact that he can now just see what he's got in the tank in terms of clear air in front of him, because we had this with Miato at the previous round. He was sat behind for so long, he tried a few moves here and there to just test the waters, and then after that, once he got in front, he was gone. So we'll see what the pace is like now for Porco, but I'm told we're going to have a look now at an incident replay here, Paul, from a little bit further down the order, P14 and 15.
So this is the danger zone, isn't it? The bus stop chicane. You highlighted this as a passing place earlier in the race, and then the sausage curb. That was lining up to be a very nice move. Granella, that was, to the inside of the purple car, and you catch that sausage curb, Chaz. You get some air, and literally your car's in the air. You can't turn, and you were going straight into the side of your rival, and that's very unlucky, actually. That one's no malice intended. That is just circumstances leads to contact.
Yeah, that's it. And I mean, it was only a simple mistake, wasn't it? A tiny little error, but the nature of these cars, you know, it's like a snowplow, the front of this thing. You really aren't going to get it over much. And that little sausage curb just, I mean, to be fair to Granella, looking at it literally, he was trying to stay as far to the inside as he could to make sure that he left all the room around the outside for the other car. It was in the best intentions, with the utmost respect, but it looked the most disrespectful from his rival's point of view, I guess, in the heat of the moment, because suddenly there was a Lamborghini joining in with his as well. So it's hard, isn't it? Eventually end up in contact. Yeah, it's very difficult. I mean, there's a reason I'm a commentator, Paul, not a driver. I can talk about people crashing and say, oh, that's a bit silly, but I'd have probably done the same.
Yeah, it's fun to pass judgment when you're not responsible for the driving, but it's so hard in these cars because these Lamborghini Super Trofeos, they've got a big nose on them. You're nestled in the middle of the car, you're low down, but it's a race car, you're hunkered in, and the whole cockpit's around you, and these drivers, more likely than not, will be racing with very much of the dashboard in view on their screen, and it can sometimes be a little bit challenging to be pinpoint precise with exactly how wide your car is. And just as we mentioned right at the start of the show, everybody seems to gravitate towards GT3s in Assetto Corsa Competizione. These cars are all of the Cup cars and the different models available in the sim, lesser used, shall we say, on average than GT3. So you're kind of not quite as in depth with your knowledge or in tune with every aspect of this car than you would be in the Lamborghini GT3, for example. So all these kind of things play a part, and sadly, as you say, for Granella, trying to be as gentlemanly about the pass as possible actually ended up costing him quite heavily. As we're looking at Porco now, has built a gap immediately of 1 second. And look at him with the picture-in-picture. Looks like he's not interested, is he? He's just really casual, really calm. Nothing's phasing him. Looks like he's on a formation lap.
Yeah, and that's exactly what you want as a driver. You know, he's messing there with the button box, changing some of the settings within the car. And that's another thing that's all about the versatility, is the fact that the drivers don't just have to drive these cars as they are. Part of the adaptation of these machines as the whole event runs is the fact that you can often, you know, bring the brake bias back a little bit, develop that over the course of the race, mess with other things as the entire race goes on, maybe even just dial the traction control in a bit more, you know, to stop those rears spinning up so much. Take it easier later on to baby the car home. But yeah, you're absolutely right. Leonardo Porco certainly looking like he is a bit of a relaxed chap right now. There's another touch of the button box, maybe again down to the brake bias, because that was at the end of a very, very long straight there. So maybe he's just making sure that he's got that one sort of dialed in and ready. I don't know. There's a lot of adjustment going on.
I don't know about you, but I can't do that one. As soon as I start faffing with changing settings mid, I'll lose all my tempo, I'll lose my head, and it all goes. So you used to see that back in the day with Schumacher, didn't you? He'd change literally corner to corner, 3 or 4 dials and settings to get the maximum out of the car. For me, as soon as I have to call a pit stop, if it's a pit stop race, everything goes out the window and down the toilet almost immediately when I take my mind off the task of physically just driving the car. So another skill set there that shows how much Leonardo Porco, how much mental capacity he's got available to him outside of the physical act of driving the car, which is always a very impressive feat and a sign of someone that's more than a tad talented.
Yeah, for the nerdy people, we could say he's got a lot of RAM. He's certainly doing a lot of thinking all at the same time as Porco. Pisano still has the fastest lap of the race, and I think Porco actually had a bit of a, I don't want to call it a shoddy second sector, because it's probably about 4 seconds faster than I could ever get this car around here, but he lost a bit of time, to say the least. It was nearly a second actually back to Pisano in that middle sector of the lap. So suddenly the gap has closed up once again, and I'm excited to see what happens with those two, whether they do reignite it as a battle or whether Pisano just says, look, I'm in a qualifying place, we've got 2 and a bit seconds back to Pirella, and then even further than that back to this man who we're looking at now, Guglielmo Filippi. There's no point battling. You may as well just sit there, enjoy the slipstream. There's 10 minutes left of this race. Some of the guys further down will be pushing like mad, i.e. Marcin Swiderek, to try and get into those top 4. But if you're first, second and third right now, I think you just make sure you get the car home and just keep a decent pace. You don't worry about overtaking or defending or anything like that.
And make sure you don't do what that man, Leonardo Rodriguez, in 6th position, car number 15, has done, and earn yourself a drive-through penalty. I'm going to take an assumption that is because he's exceeded track limits too many times in this race. That has been issued by the ACC anti-cut system. And a drive-through penalty is never good news, even less so in the last 10 minutes. But basically a drive-through penalty, although for causing a collision, as it says, comes, oh no, sorry, different cars, ignore me, but a drive-through penalty, basically driving to Zolder to serve that one here at Spa. It's such a long pit lane. That has annihilated Rodriguez's race completely now, hasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. There's a lot of elements in these races, and the fact that it's an hour long adds more pressure onto the fact that you can get more track limits warnings and obviously go outside of said track limits as an hour goes on. You know, it's not a 20-minute sprint race or anything like that. GT races, when they are, in inverted commas, sprint races, usually are 1 hour long. So I suppose it's just one of those things. The drivers are pushing hard tonight, and an obvious statement of that is the fact that Rodriguez has pushed too hard in the end, and this number 15 car will now be under pressure from Mattia behind. Car number 20 was flashing the lights just a moment ago, and then Magnani is obviously going to overtake both of these by the time they get to the end of the race, but that's not going to mean enough, I'm afraid, for the number 4 driver, because that incident earlier on has meant that he's not in the top 4 qualifying position.
So, 8 minutes and 49 seconds left on the clock, 9:01 p.m. in-game time. At the moment in time, it's looking fairly locked in for our top 4 drivers. Leonardo Rodriguez that we're looking at with the drive-through penalty he needs to serve in the next 3 laps. Karim Mattia is all over the back of the number 15 machine, so Mattia will be well aware that a drive-through penalty is to be served, but that doesn't seem to stop him flashing the lights, doesn't seem to stop him attacking to do this incredibly fast section of circuit. Mattia goes for a little bit of a view, gives the grandstands a good view, and the fans watching here at the Spa-Francorchamps circuit a good view of his Lamborghini. Don't want to be doing that one too many times, Kareem, otherwise you'll be joining Grigis down pit road, and there is the walk of shame down the pit lane for Leonardo Grigis, and that will hurt so badly. But Karim Mattia now into 6th position. Magnane recovering to 7th. That's been a solid recovery drive, and that could even be another position yet if he keeps things going. Karim Mattia, 5 seconds to serve, has a slam dunk 5th. 6th even, can't count.
Yeah. Well, Mattia nearly ended up in Luxembourg then and having to pay to get back in, to be honest. He was very, very wide through Blanchimont. Easy to do that, but at the end of the day, there's no point putting a mile of lock on, trying to sort of squeeze the car back to the apex. You have to just deal with the fact you're going wide. Just keep your speed up nice and smooth so you don't over-rotate the car and just bring it back on as it was. But here is Karim Mattia, really putting his arms into the steering as well. Another thing that we've seen over the course of this championship, the different driving styles and seating positions of these drivers. I can't quite remember who it was now, but we had a driver at the very first round that was almost NASCAR-esque. You know, it was like he was chewing on the wheel and driving with his chin instead of actually like having his arms out in front of him. But there are other drivers that completely have their arms out, and you must think that would kill your shoulders after a 1-hour race. But it's each to their own in that sort of thing, and that's what we love about this, because it's drivers that we may not have seen before on our cameras, and we get an idea of the different driving styles out there and the different approaches that people take to this sort of event.
Yeah, and that's fascinating, isn't it? It's fascinating to see the different age range, the different backgrounds of the drivers, the different hardware that they use, and their driving styles, the way they set their car up, the way they approach these races, both from a preparation and a mental side of things as well. It really is absolutely fascinating. And remember again, I know we've said this a few times, but I'm going to say it again here to now. These drivers are all looking to become professionals. So these are all just like you and I. They're at home doing this on their own equipment in their own house for fun, hoping to make that next step. So they're all self-taught. They're all doing what they're comfortable with. They've got no coaches, they've got no fitness instructors, they've got no technical leads telling them the best way to go about doing their business. This is pure driving talent, experience and time on track, and it's really, really wonderful to see who rises and who falls in these scenarios. But let's go back now with 5 minutes and 44 seconds left on the clock. Leonardo Porco has not run away at the front of the field like I thought he would do, Chaz, actually. In fact, if anything, Pisano starting to reel him ever so slightly back in again.
Yeah, I think it's certainly not over, this race between these pair. Well, I said before that it was Porco that's got the bungee cord on the front of his car and bouncing around all over back of Pisano's number 3 machine. I think maybe he's actually sort of slung it out the window now and said, hey, I'll carry this. He's put it on the tow hook and suddenly they're staying together. The slipstream isn't massive around Spa, especially in cars like this with so much top end. I mean, down the Kemmel Straight, yes, sure, you're going to get some there, and down towards Blanchimont. But there's so many twisty bits between all of those sections that you can't really bank on it like somewhere like Monza, where it's 90% of the lap where you sat in the slipstream. So it's not just that that's keeping them together here. I think Porco might have overdone his tyres and trying to run away. And Pisano's still got that little extra bit left in the tank. We've got 4 3/4 minutes left, which is going to feel like 1 lap, but it's going to be maybe 2, maybe 3, I'd say, from this point. We'll have to see what it's like when they cross the line. But I'm not sure Porco can hold on to this, you know.
And this is Porco's going to be well aware of how much easier it is when you're following another car. He followed Pisano for so long at the start of this race. He's going to be well aware of the amount of commitment and risk it took to make that move for the race lead. All these things are going to be weighing on the mind of Leonardo Porco. He knows he's leading this race. He would like the win, but he would like to qualify more, and he runs very, very deep, and now this is going to cost massively. We are on the flat-out final sector of this lap. The run through Blanchimont, probably a light lift for Pisano not to get too close to the rear of the number 13 car, and then he'll be looking and thinking about it into the bus stop. He'll do well to get through the bus stop and then consider it further along the lap. And we've seen this so many times in this race and in this series. You don't make the move here, Chaz. Now, if you're Pisano, you're lining up the move for Lecombe, aren't you? Not now. You're preparing everything for a strike further through the lap.
Yeah, definitely. You have to set it up. Like we said before, you know, you've not got a circuit here where you just throw everything at one corner. You have to set it up, pick it apart, know exactly where you should be and when, and get yourself a good run out of one corner that can lead into a setup for another corner. To be honest with you, Paul, as well, behind this, Perella is not clear of Filippi or Swiderek either. The three of them are separated by just 2 seconds. And that's where the final qualifying spot will be determined between 3rd, 4th and 5th. So it's all still to play for here. 3 minutes left at Spa-Francorchamps. I'm excited, very excited.
Yeah, if I was a gambling man, I would not want to lay any money down whatsoever on which drivers are going to make it through in this top 4 position to the final at the Nürburgring at the end of this month. It is still very much game on in 1st and 2nd position. You're looking at on your screen now. 3rd, 4th and 5th are separated by nothing more than enthusiasm at this moment in time. So that one is all up in the air. And of course, the ever-present spectre of track limits, the ever-present spectre of a mistaken contact are all waiting in the wings with 2 minutes and 23 seconds left to go. Pisano, we saw a little bit squiggly through Bruxelles, but has managed to minimise time loss, let's say, to the car ahead. That's going to stunt his challenge ever so slightly as he continues now through Pouon to follow in the wheel tracks of the number 13 Filippi, the man on the bubble. Car number 7, position number 4, has got Marcin Swiderek for company. You do not want to see that silver car behind you with 1 minute 50 seconds left on the clock, because you know that Swiderek, you've got no other chances. This is it. This is the one. You make that move, or you turn off your computer, go downstairs, get a cup of tea, and reflect on what could have been. So Marcin Swiderek has it all to win and absolutely nothing to lose.
That's it. He needs to just make sure that he sends everything at this right now and does all that he can do to get ahead of this car that we look at, Guglielmo Filippi, car number 7. It's less than a second, so he's of course in the slipstream. If he can stay that sort of distance away, doesn't have to worry about Mattia behind, because it's 6 seconds and then obviously a 5-second penalty on top of that. There's loads to think about for these drivers in front of Swiderek though. They will know his name, they'll know what the pressure is going to be like as we come on to what will be the final lap of the race now, Paul. 25 laps at Spa is no short measure, but this has been a great race for the ages and a fantastic round of this championship, because look at the top 5, they're all really evenly spread out. Yeah, that's great. Look at all in one shot. Wow.
Sensational way to end the 4 qualification races of the real race Super Trofeo Esports Series. It has been a tight and compact schedule. We've had race after race after race. The pressure has been building. The pressure has been cooking, ready to this grand final in terms of qualification to get through to the actual grand final at the Nürburgring. At this moment in time, Porker now has checked out a little bit at the front of the field. So William Pisano's second wind seems to have come to an end in that fight for victory. Maybe the sensible decision there, just to consolidate your qualifying spot. But Marcin Swiderek has no intentions of any kind of being sensible. He's got 0.6 of a second to overcome and 10 seconds left to do it. Where's your best shot, Chaz? You're Marcin Swiderek. Where is the best place for you to launch an attack?
Somewhere on the circuit, I think, is probably my safest answer.
Outstanding.
I really don't know, Paul. If I'm honest with you, I would not have a clue. You would have thought it'd be down the Kemmel Straight to Licon, but he's not close enough for that. You've got to think it's going to be down into the bus stop. You focus on the middle sector, try and get close, try and get a bit of slipstream down to Francorchamps and see what you can do in the final moments. But even then, it's got to be something where he's a lot closer than he is right now. He's 6/10 behind last time they broke any of the timing beams. So I don't think he's going to be able to do enough here. I hate to say it, but you never know until it's over. But right now, Porco leads the way and has opened up that gap once again to Pisano. He's been great this race. Both of them have. All of them have. The whole top sort of 6 to 10 drivers that we've had consistently up there. Wow, brilliant stuff.
Yeah, could not agree with you more. So Leonardo Porco, should he cross the line in a few moments' time, secured the win with an exceptional pass on the very impressive William Pisano. Took the race lead when he didn't have to, put all the pressure, all the risk on the line, and his reward will be a race victory for the final time into the bus stop chicane. We hit the brakes, a squirt of acceleration, run the car to the outside of the track, and Leonardo Porco takes the checkered flag in the final qualification race of Lamborghini, the real race. Super Trofeo Esports with an outstanding win for the car number 13. William Pisano crosses the line in second position. Pirella rounds out the podium, and Filippi at the line secures, holds on to fourth place, and those four drivers have it all to celebrate because they will be heading to the Nürburgring for fighting for the chance to be a professional eSport driver for the Lamborghini Automobile eSports team.
Brilliant stuff. Great race that as well, and once again had us on the edge of our seats all the way throughout because there was not one driver that set a specific pace that disappeared up the road. Everybody was just constantly going back and forth with each other, and I thought that was wonderful to watch. We've still got a battle going on here. Leonardo Grigis all over the back of Granella. The two of them don't have to fight each other, but they're doing it for our entertainment now, for their bragging rights as Grigis goes through. Granella seemingly slowing there in the purple machine, unfortunately, and Grigis, well, running very wide through Blanchimont, taking a mick with the track limits. Just for entertainment, he's got the airtime at the end of the day, you may as well use it, and we can still enjoy the fantastic sound from the Lamborghini Huracan Super Trofeo Evo 2, 610 horsepower around there in these cars, 5.2 litre V10, making a great noise across the line.
Fabulous stuff, and potentially Granella may have run out of fuel at the end, which we mentioned right at the top of the show. But before we go any further, gents, that was some fabulous racing. And Chaz, we've seen everything in the qualification races so far, but I don't think, and my memory is horrendous, so please don't prove me wrong, just agree with me. I don't think we've seen quite so much bravery for a pass for the race win so close to the death when they're in such a comfortable position. So Porco, that was superb, actually. Really well-deserved victory.
Yeah, and I mean, you're putting a lot on the line when you go for a move like that. At the end of the day, the driver in front might defend a little bit too hard and not expect you to go for it. They may just be thinking, oh, he's just trying to fake me out, because I was going to mention it at the time, but I lost my train of thought, admittedly. But I've remembered it all the way up till now. But Porco tried a move, or he was trying to get into Pisano's head a little bit up to that point, because every time they were getting to Lecom on the brakes at the end of the Kemmel Straight, he was moving the car at least a car's width to the right-hand side and just filling his mirrors, almost as if to say, I am going to send it down the inside. So I'm not sure whether it was something to do with that was getting into Pisano's head, and he thought, oh, he's not really going to go for it. But we'll see, I guess. And, well, Pisano, I'm sure, will be still very happy with second place, because it was certainly a great race between the pair of them. I say we'll see like it's not already over. I'm that excited by it. I was playing it back in my head and I was going completely back in time there, but that's what this does to you. Because there's been so much exciting racing going on, we've been spoiled rotten here.
We really have, and I think it's a big credit to Lamborghini for continuing this initiative, the Real Race Super Trofeo Esports. It's been rebranded this year, it's the format's changed, and it's been really reinvigorated. And of course, in no small part, that is through the work of the outstanding AK Esports, who pretty much are behind everything that's awesome in sim racing. And I know I'm speaking on both our behalves, Chaz, but I'm sure I'm right in saying this. It's incredible to be a part of this with AK Esports again, and with Lamborghini, and the drivers put on a phenomenal show, and I'm just so impressed with everything I've seen. And now we have got our 16 qualified drivers for the Nürburgring, and then that's an entirely different kettle of fish again, because we're outside of our comfort zones. We get them on site, and that's when you've got to perform.
Absolutely, and I mean, I can still kick my feet up in the office and enjoy myself from here in the UK. But yeah, we've got a great list of drivers. I wrote down all the names earlier on, as I'm sure you did as well, Paul, because we need to know who we've got. I've only got surnames, though, so I'm really sorry, everybody. Oh, mine are down the side of the entry list because I'm dead lazy. But we've got Durkop, Larito, Seminara, Bonsignore, Lomi, Polovchuk, Ciriello, sorry. That is then Scheibel, Miato, Yamulo, Romagnoli. Have I put him? No, I've got Bonsignore and Romagnoli mixed up there, sorry. Sobchik, Porco, Pisano, Pirella, and Filippi all going through. And it's great because at least Filippi as well, we've seen him in a couple of events here over the course of this part of the series. And to see him finally get up there is great because he's been trying and trying and trying. And again, it's just been great enjoyment to watch him race. And you can see through all of these moments, wow, how did nobody collect that car at the start of the race? We didn't see that live on air. But yeah, Filippi, great achievement. He may have got the last spot available. That doesn't matter. He's got a spot. They're all on the even pegging now because it all starts again. You know, it's all like a big reset button as they go to the Nürburgring. We've got the wild cards yet to come as well, Paul, actually. So So many elements are all going to come together at the Nürburgring. I'm gutted I'm not going to be there in person, but I'm going to be clawing at my desk watching with excitement here from here in the UK.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a big reminder, actually, about the wildcards. Head over to the Nürburgring on the 30th of July weekend for the GT World Challenge Europe. Get into the paddock, go to the Fanatec Arena. There are 2 spots up for grabs where you could go straight to the grand final and have that outstanding chance to win earn a seat at the Automobile Lamborghini Esport team. Also, if you're not interested in the driving side of things or don't think you can compete with these guys and girls, then scan the QR code on your screen. You've got a chance to win 150 or 300 euros. We're looking at some highlights from the race that has just unfolded. And again, fantastic racecraft from a lot of our drivers. Beautiful stuff. But the biggest shout out, we've shouted out Lamborghini, Sedo Corsa, AK Esports, the guys and girls behind the scenes. Chaz, always awesome to work with you. The biggest shout out, as always, is to everybody watching from home. It's been great to have you with us on this journey. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for the nice things that you've been saying about these broadcasts. It means a lot to everybody concerned. And do come back again, toddle back on again on the 30th of July, because I reckon, Chaz, this grand finale is going to be quite outstanding.
It really is, because it all boils down to the final race, the final event, and I cannot wait to see how the pressure affects the drivers and how the different environment affects them. It's something we've only hinted at so far, is that they're not going to be in their own equipment that they're using at home. They're going to be surrounded by their competitors physically. They'll be able to see the people racing next to them in the arena. They'll have fans there as well watching. They'll have a real world racing event in terms of the GT World Challenge, I should say, at the Nürburgring. They're at a real circuit in a different country. So much pressure, but it's just going to be great. It really is, because these drivers are that good that they will put on a hell of a show. No matter how well or badly it goes, they will deliver, and we will be here to provide great coverage for it, and hopefully entertaining commentary as well, as Paul and I just enjoy ourselves, to be honest. This isn't work, is it, Paul?
No, couldn't agree more. It's an absolute pleasure. I reckon on that note, it's time for us to send our love to you all at home. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being part of it. And don't forget the 30th of July. Yes. Honestly, it's going to be a barnstormer. Yeah, write it down. Make sure you do it. A big note. Put it on the fridge or something. Take the child's drawing off. Throw it in the bin. You don't want that. You want a 30th of July sign to say, come to this race. So from myself, Paul Jeffrey, from the legend that is Chaz Draycott, and from us all here at Lamborghini The Real Race, thank you for watching. Until the 30th of July, see you again.
Goodbye.